Hey, tonight on the Jerry White Show, we welcome a man who carries one of the most important responsibilities in Etowah County. Besides protecting our communities and supporting the law enforcement officers, he's helping keep families safe across the entire region. Our guest tonight has spent several years in law enforcement, and he's built a reputation for being both a strong leader, steady voice in these challenging times. A sheriff in Etowah County oversees everything from patrol, investigation, county jail, public safety operations that impacts thousands of residents daily. Under his leadership, Etowah County Sheriff's Office is focused on strengthening that relationship with the community, supporting deputies who put their lives on the line and addressing the real issues facing our county. From crime prevention to the opioid crisis, challenging law enforcement is just incredibly hard to do. But tonight we're going to go behind the badge a little bit. We're going to talk about more of the man, the office, and kind of what it takes to be Etowah County Sheriff. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce not only my friend, but Etowah County Sheriff Jonathon Horton. Welcome.
Thank you, Jerry. Good to be here. Always
Yeah,
good
man.
to be with you. Good to talk
And
with
I appreciate that. We go way, way back, and we won't tell any of those
you.
stories because you're trying to get elected. So
That's right.
we don't need any of that coming on.
Yeah, that's
No,
right.
just kidding, man.
Yeah.
So let's get right into it. And again, we can go in any direction, but one of the most important questions I hear people talking, and Jeff and I, from our Kapow show that you're so graciously part of for all these years, we hear all the time, hey, why do you think Jonathon decided to go in law enforcement? So I'm just going to throw that at you. You could have done anything in your life. You could have been full-time military. Heck, you're from Etowah. You could have went to prison. We can all these different paths, and
That's
you
right.
chose law enforcement.
That's
Let's
right.
just go down that road.
So whenever I first, graduated high school in West End, 1991, even though I only went there like the last 6 weeks, I still claim Etowah. I went
Yep.
there all the way up until then, but Etowah City had an attendance problem. But you said we wouldn't talk about those problems back then. But
Exactly.
I made it to West End and graduated. My granddad was very instrumental in raising me right here in the Ivy area, and that was Troy Horton. He passed away in '04, but he was retired, 24-year master sergeant, 2 tours Korea, 2 tours Vietnam, and then came home and became a non-denominational Pentecostal preacher and did another 20 years at the post office. So he had quite a lengthy career in public service, and he always taught me and just instilled that in me that I felt like as soon as I graduated, I needed to at least give 4 years to my country. So I joined the United States Navy, and I was active duty from 92 to 96. I was an aviation electronics technician. I was stationed out mostly at Naval Air Station North Island out in San Diego. Me and Angie got married at a very young age. So we were married, and that was a long way from home, like another country. Never had left Alabama. Here we are for 3 years in California. Get out of there and get an honorable discharge. And my dad had bought the old Rebel Drive-In, if you remember that, over in Alabama City, and opened Village Chapel Funeral Home in '96. Just happened to be about 30 days it opened after I got out of the Navy. So I went right there and went to mortuary college at Jefferson State. I became a licensed funeral director in 1998. You never know what path God's going to take you. I miss service. I miss the military because I was married at that time when I came to the end of my time in the Navy. And we had 2 children. We're going to have 3. We've been married 35 years now, 36 in December.
That's awesome.
At that time, it was just best that we felt we wanted to come home. My wife was homesick. And basically, I remember exactly. She said, if you want to go to Yokosuka, Japan, have fun eating fish, but I'm going back to Gadsden, Alabama. So I chose to come back here with her. I think that was a wise decision.
Sure.
And after getting in the funeral business, I missed the military, so I joined the Alabama Army National Guard. And I stayed in it 5 years, from 98 to '03. And in 2000, right after 9/11, I got activated for a year, really 13 months. It was great duty, converted over to a military police, and spent 13 months in what they call airport security. We were all there was until they developed TSA after 9/11. So I lived in the Huntsville-Madison County Airport for about a year there, from after September 11 till about December of '02. And we worked 6 days on with 2 days off, and we worked about 14 hours a day from the time the airport opened until late at night. So there wasn't time really to run back and forth. I would ride in my off hours off duty with the Huntsville Police. Didn't know what it paid, but I thought, hey, this is
Sure.
something I can serve and do locally. I came back, and that's when I called. Sheriff Hayes hired me, and I went to work as a patrol deputy in '02. Took a huge cut in pay. We won't talk about that, but we battled through it. I think I went to work at the sheriff's office in '02, making a little over $7.60 an hour as a patrol deputy. And maybe made it up to about $12 or $13 an hour as a narcotics agent. Now we're around '06. And then I had the opportunity in 2012 to become the chief of police of the city of Glencoe. I spent nearly 5 years there, and an opening came up in Rainbow City. This was around 2016. And it was a little bit bigger department. Glencoe, I loved it. It was a great place. I never wanted to leave it, but I felt like for the advancement of my career, I had came to Glencoe when it was about a 6-man department. When I left, it was about a 10-man department. When I got to Rainbow City in 2016, it was about a 23-man department. And of course, it was a little more money and a lot more responsibility, just a little bit bigger city. And it was like stepping stones. And then I felt that calling to run for sheriff, and the time had came, and it was 2018. And I went and talked to the current sheriff at that time. I felt like that was the honorable thing to do. He and I met, we discussed it. He told me his plans. I told him my plans. And of course, that was a ferocious election we won't talk about, but we made it through that. And a lot of things went on. But I can tell you this. I felt from a young age that I was called, and my salvation is what is first and most dear to me. And I believe 100% in the Bible. I know you said this show is, laid back and we don't really go to, but honestly, the Lord orders our steps. He has a destination. He has a plan, and he puts us through things. And this isn't planned to be talked about, but there was a void there. If you remember, I worked narcotics up to '06, and then I became the chief in 12. Well, in '06, I was involved in a traffic accident. I was off. It was a 4th of July weekend, and I was traveling up Alabama Highway 77. And before I knew it, I was in an accident. And the next thing I remember, my career was over, and I was being charged with assault first because, that's a felony. And I lost my retirement. I resigned from law enforcement. And I use this as my testimony, because most thought I wouldn't even be, nothing wrong with security guards, but I would never even be a security guard, much less a certified law enforcement officer.
Right.
And so I worked myself back. Let me say this. God gave me grace and mercy. When I got my circumstances that happened, and I think this is important, I wasn't a drinker. My problems at the time was I didn't spend time like I should with my family at home. And whenever God burns your barley fields, sometimes what he burns them with might not be what he's trying to get your attention about, but it got my attention overall. Right. And it also gave me grace and mercy, which I think is very important for a sheriff to have. I think that when you yield power to change someone's life, that there's the spirit of the law and there's the letter of the law. And somewhere there, what's best for the citizens and the individuals, a route we want to take. And whenever you've been through the justice system yourself, rightfully even so, and God gives you mercy, then it opens your eyes a little bit, and you look at people's circumstances. And when you're sheriff, you might deal with someone that had their weed eater stole, or you might deal with someone that had their loved one murdered. Both are just as important to the person.
Sure.
And so they want that attention. And I don't know, I'll go off on rabbit hose if you let me, Jerry.
That's okay.
I just had a passion to serve, and that's been my passion. And my entire life, I have served in the funeral business for several years now, over 30 years. I still hold my license and work when requested part-time at Glencoe Hoax Bluff Funeral Home. I've served in the military, 4 years active duty, in the Navy, 5 years in the Alabama Army National Guard, and I've been in law enforcement the other part of my life. So people have either been dying to see me, or you get the point. I do. But I have been the last guy to let them down in a lot of cases. And anyway, the jokes go on with the mortuary, but
it does. But it's funny, you mentioned that, and I remember a book. I want to say it's Dog the Bounty Hunter wrote a book, and where mercy is given, mercy is shown.
That's right.
That's powerful that you brought that up.
Yeah.
I got some questions coming in here. Thank you guys, everyone's watching. Throw your questions, and appropriate, I'll I'll certainly ask them. And I thought this was a rather good question on Facebook and YouTube. If you're on YouTube right now, go ahead and put your question on Facebook. It stays after the show. The questions go away on YouTube. So get your question, and Jonathan will go back and look at those and answer them if he wants to. But this is a very good one. It says, "What do people in Etowah County probably don't realize about what your deputies deal with on a daily basis?"
Yeah. They deal with everything from the lowest point of people's lives, people in very tragic situations. Just this past Saturday, we had a deceased person that was missing from Blount County that was found up in the Altoona area.
Yeah,
And when you go there and you deal with the family, and of course naturally they're upset, and you're trying to see what's going on and muddle through the differences, and on a domestic violence call, when you're dealing with people that are having adult problems, but then their children involved, and some of the things that you see in this county that you might look around, and you're not in a third world country, but you are blessed to have what we have, and there are
sure.
people that are hurting, and deputies have to be more like a minister, really, to be honest with you, if they want to
Yeah,
be successful, and very diplomatic to try to bring peace to every situation. But you tote some burdens with that. You go through some stresses, and we always make counseling available and try to emphasize at the office that if anyone needs time off, or they need someone to talk to, or they just need a break, to let it be known, because it can be a very stressful job.
sure. Well, my insight from that, it mostly comes from a guy who's become one of my best friends, and that's Coach Matthew Crane, who
Yeah.
he served in the jail and deputy and stuff. So he tells some stories, and he was also law enforcement. So to hear some of those stories, some of the fun stuff, he don't really get into the bad stuff. He tries not to remember that, but you guys like to have a good time as well. I
That's
think
true.
if the deputies are, I want to make sure I get their names correct. The deputies are having a good time. The interacting is probably pretty awesome. Let's talk about the differences between working in the jail for these officers and working in a patrol. Break down the differences between the two. A lot of
Yeah.
people
So
don't know.
a lot of people don't. So, and both of them are very good careers. Everybody has different interests. It takes a heart to serve to do either. You're not going to
Sure.
become wealthy doing either. But working inside the jail, in my opinion, I didn't have that opportunity before I went to the road, if that's what you want to call it. I
Hmm.
just went straight into law enforcement. But those that do have a huge advantage, because one, you don't carry a weapon in there, but
Oh,
all the people that generally commit crime, and I hate to say that, we have frequent flyers, so you get to know the people. You learn to communicate with them without a weapon, which is a key weapon of being diplomatic and being able to talk yourself through a situation. Um, but at the same time, it takes a very special person, I think, to do both. I myself wouldn't like to be in confinement all day or work
sure.
indoors, but that would be a jail or a service station or a department store, any of that for me. But working in the jail, you're going to meet a lot of interesting characters at their lowest part of life. Some of them have a lot of mental health issues. You're going to have to learn to laugh or cry, so you will have a weird sense of humor probably in both jobs before it's over. Now on the road, it's got its challenges too, because there's 589 square miles of
Wow.
rural Etowah County, even though we're the 67th, which is the last geographically in size.
Wow.
Uh, we split the county east and west by I-59, but when you think about it, east of I-59, you've got Gadsden PD, Hoax Bluff, Glencoe, Southside, Rainbow City. But when you
Hmm.
get west, that's why we call it the Wild Wild West. That's where I live, out in Gallant. When you
Sure.
get out of LA, lower of Etowah there,
Yep.
you've got all of 431 till you get to Marshall County, and you've got 278 till you get to Altoona on 132, or Walnut Grove on 278. And there's a lot of land and territory. And many times we need more deputies. We only have about six. Over time, our call volumes has increased. And you learn to be diplomatic differently than when you work at the police department. You got five guys there that come rolling up with you. When you're
Sure.
by
Sure.
yourself at Foxy's in the middle of the night at 2 a.m., you learn to be nice until somebody gets there to help you, if you can
Heck
be.
yeah. Heck
And
yeah.
so it's a very trying on both sides. And but the jail, I think, is very key to be a very. If I was a young man starting, I would go to work and want to work in the jail at least a year. I think that makes such a better officer. And we've had those deputies that worked in the jail, went to the road, and gives them a lot of verbal skills and things that are very successful for them. So I think that it's good to do both, but they're certainly two separate careers. We actually, I want to mention a lady, and she deserves the
Yeah.
announce and shout out. Janet Daniels, I know her as, gave her 40-year certificate yesterday. She's worked at the
Wow.
sheriff's office in the jail since 1986, when James Hayes was the year he was elected. That's a long time ago. I think I was 13 years old when she went to work there. So,
Wow, that's incredible.
yeah,
That's incredible. We,
that's
that's what we need to have her on the show.
That's right.
That's the
She's
real
seen a lot.
story.
She started in the old building, the old jail
Yeah.
on top of the original where the courthouse is. That's right.
Hey, let's talk a little bit, and I'll get to your questions. Guys, thank
Mhm.
you so much for putting these up here. I promise we'll get to all of them we can. One of my good friends, and he's one of those guys, Sheriff, that everyone calls, hey, he's my friend, and that's Scott Hassel.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of conversations from a pastoral side, from the judge side, and let's talk about the importance of working with him. And he is all about mental health and being sure your officers are rightly trained, and there's different divisions that help with mental health. It's a split second decision sometimes. And if this person is in a mental health crisis, is this person on drugs, or is this person just upset? I couldn't imagine having to be a deputy and make those decisions. Talk about some of the training that goes into that.
Yeah, so really just here in the last couple of years, Judge Hassel has a wealth of knowledge, and you probably well know he has a large mental health background.
Yeah.
And then all those years, he was the chief of the jail when he got elected probate judge, so he has the detention center background and really established, from what I understand, the first certified SALP, substance abuse program, inside the Etowah County Detention Center, so that inmates who would have to wait till they got sentenced to state SALP, it'd take them 8 months to get to prison to do the 6-month program where he could rehab them and have them out of jail before they ever got to prison. Well, now we have the impact program that grew off of that. And most currently on the sheriff's office side, we have a new unit that's awesome called ESU, Emergency Service Unit. Chandler Nelson, which is a triple certified deputy. He's both a policeman, fireman, and medic.
Wow.
And some other guys like Tim McKee, the fire chief at Rainbow City, Will Reed, our 911 director. All these guys are coming together to help reduce overdoses, get to calls in rural parts of the county, and save people's lives when you have to wait a long time. Like Jackson Trail in Altoona, if you're waiting on an ambulance, it might be 30 minutes. And a Dodge Charger is faster than a fire truck any day, right? So you're going to get there first. And being able to do something about that. But with that, Scott came up, and I don't want to get into his job. Please forgive me, Judge Hassel, if you're watching, but MCAT, Mobile Crisis Action Team, where he deputized, and now we have specialized deputies that are deputized, not just by the sheriff, but by the probate judge. And we get a lot of calls where people are mentally ill or they have substance abuse, and most of them are co-occurring, meaning they have both. And in the past, it was a simple question: do you want to go to jail or do you want to go to the hospital? Because you couldn't leave them on the street.
Yeah.
And if they didn't want to go to the hospital, a lot of times it was obstruction of governmental operations, disorderly conduct, public intoxication. It was just a reason to get them off the streets. Well, then it would take their family to come down and gather everybody together, going back to the funeral business now. If you don't have a wife, every kid has to sign your cremation, so everybody's got to sign to get you evaluated.
Yeah.
Well, now we have these specialized deputies that go directly to the scene, make the assessment, and immediately get them to the hospital to be regulated with the medical needs that they may need if they're mentally ill, and it's just that they're off their meds, they couldn't afford them.
Sure.
And then let's take it a step further. We've now got them inside the jail through the Department of Mental Health, through this stepping up and focus, where we have an inside case manager that when someone gets arrested, they look when they're being assessed and say, okay, this might be a mental health patient. And then we have a therapist that then sees that person and sees what kind of medications they're on or gets them the diagnosis to give them the medication they need. And then we have an outside therapist after they're managed. Also, don't let me leave out here, you've got the probate judge, you got the sheriff, and community corrections, Terry Bosbury. She's doing a tremendous job, and she's sort of the overseer. So they get released to her custody, and that outside case manager continues to meet with them to make sure they don't need titrated, doses lowered or brought down. And the goal is, after a year, these people normalize, hopefully, and they get the opportunity to be productive citizens. And let me say, there's a third part. Laura King with New Life is inside under the Department of Mental Health, and they're offering counseling coupled with Vivitrol, which is a medical assisted therapy. It's not Sublocade or methadone. I'm not really familiar with it, but it keeps you from having that craving or ability to do drugs if that's what you want to do.
Mhm.
And so there's all kinds of opportunity in that jail that wouldn't be there if it wasn't for the expertise, the skills, and what we've learned together between the judge with community corrections. And that's what it's all about, Jerry, is working together to make this thing better, because we have a large jail and we have a
Sure.
lot of mental health and substance abuse in there.
Is Clinic 5, they participate in that? Jenny Thrasher and
I'm sorry that I'm so sorry I left them out. They do. They provide. So A New Life provides the counseling in Clinic 5. Jenny and them provide the actual administration of the medicine. And my understanding is once they're released, which that's what we want to see,
sure.
then they get to continue that treatment. And that's the beautiful thing about it, is giving those folks that opportunity.
And Terry came on mine and Jeff's show. She's awesome, by the way.
That's a lady. This is a pilot program. But go ahead. For the entire
so
state.
this is just for Alabama, or is this a national program?
It's a pilot program for Alabama. It's through CED, which is Cherokee, Etowah, and DeKalb. And so those 4 employees, the inside case manager, outside case manager, therapist, and peer support person, are given to all 3 counties. And it's a pilot program through the Department of Mental Health called Focus. Stepping Up is another name for it.
That's awesome.
But anyway, it's really a lot of help by CED and the Department of Mental Health. The jail's just where these people are. So we want to open our doors to anybody and not prohibit those opportunities. And that's really where we come in at the sheriff's office.
And again, thank you for your questions. We'll get to some of these. I'm not going to tell you who this one's from, but who's your favorite daughter?
That'd be a trick question there.
Do not answer that.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, that's funny. You can go back later and see which one asked that question.
Right.
Hey, what are some of the great question? This is actually by a local doctor here. It says, what would you say the biggest public safety concern facing Etowah County right now with all the drugs, fentanyl, those kind of issues? It's a never-ending battle. I've heard you speak on it before, but please.
It is a never-ending battle. Again, I was an original member of the Drug Enforcement Unit that's still there today. And from that time, the war on drugs has went on, and it will continue to go on forever, as I say. But we have to do it because you have to try to keep it in check. I do want to say that since President Trump has been in office, things have drastically gotten better.
Awesome.
That border being shut down, that has really took a dent in the supply chains, and drugs are not as rampant as they were prior to that. Now the cost goes up because the supply goes down, but hey, that's part of it. That being said, right now fentanyl is very dangerous because people are lacing it. Kids are getting in touch with it, thinking that they're smoking some vape with this CBD in it. Next thing you know, they're unconscious and it comes back from the lab with fentanyl in it. What we're doing is this emergency service unit is more of a proactive measure than a reactive. Sure, it reacts and they apply Lucas devices and help people if needed, but they go out and educate and provide Narcan to not just our educators, but places where drug addicts hang out. We even give them expired if we can, because that may be all that saves them before they make the decision that we try to get them to make. And that's the opportunity to get clean and join one of these programs. But fentanyl is very dangerous. And, it doesn't take much. When I worked drugs in the early 2000s, it was meth mountain. It was meth we dealt with.
Right.
Then meth became ice. And now ice has became heroin. And now heroin's became fentanyl. And, way back then, 20 years ago, we didn't have even a heroin case in Etowah County in 2003. None that I know of. And I talked to even previous people, even the previous sheriff that worked narcotics forever. But now it's on every corner. Yeah. And it's come from China, and it's slipped across our border, and it's killing our kids. It's killing users. It's killing anybody that wants. It is unforgiving.
Yeah.
So, that's just where we are. But we're doing all we can to educate people to the dangers of that. And I think the younger we get in touch with them, the more successful. That's why we try to invest so much in our schools.
And to that point, let's talk about, I think some people see a school resource officer as just someone there just in case, but they're building relationships. They're training. I know from Jeff's wife, Principal Underwood, and they go to the Tazaro and they do these real life training. I know they went through active shooter drill last year, a couple years ago, and it changed her. Talk about the importance of the school resource officer. And they're more, yes, they're there to hang out and build relationships with the kids,
Yeah.
but it's so important for our schools.
It's huge. You know, Dare started in the 80s, and you remember buying the suckers for a quarter and
Yep.
just
Yep.
say no. It's came a long way since then. Now it's
Yeah.
more of a making good decision, mentoring. That was a huge campaign thing of mine. Real quick, my wife's a school nurse, two of my
Yep.
daughters, one's a school counselor, one's a school teacher. The youngest one, she has the degree to be that. She's been the marketing manager at Chick-fil-A. We're heavily invested in schools. When I became sheriff, we had 22 county schools. We had 9 school resource officers that were deputies, and we had 6 county schools that shared 3. Career Tech had one half a day. Ively had him the other half. Duck Springs had one half a day. Carlisle had him the other half. Sardis had one half a day. Whitesboro had him the other. We got together shortly after I took office in 2020. We had the first DARE conference here, certified everybody in DARE.
Yeah.
We've added 6. We now have 15, which gives us one on every campus. There is no campus in Etowah County without a school resource officer. We're very thankful for the cities of Rainbow City, Mayor Joe Taylor, the cities of Southside, now Mayor Joy Statham, because they have county schools in their jurisdiction and they provide their municipal police officers, which allows us to take those deputies out into the more rural parts.
Yeah.
So of those 22, 2's in Southside, 2's in Rainbow City. When I became sheriff, Hoax Bluff High School only had one at the high school. With the help of others, we were able to now, I think it was CARE and then the Board of Education, try partners and pays with the county commission and my sheriff's discretionary accounts.
Mhm.
It's cost us all about $350,000 a piece. Now, a topic for another day is my wife's a school nurse.
Yeah.
And they've got to have a school nurse. She's not an educator, she's support staff.
Yeah.
This day and time, school don't open without an SRO neither. That's support staff. Education Trust Fund, I don't know. Something needs to pay for that because we've got to have it. But when I took over, I had to take deputies because it was that important to me, and I'll still say it is.
Yep.
From the road and put them in the school because we had so many schools without any protection. And so many things have happened since then. That's just not cool.
Right.
And it's not so much to keep the guy from showing up and having an active shooter, as you mentioned a while ago. It's putting the right people with the right heart because many of those kids, that's the only light and the only hope and the only person they get the opportunity to go to as a lifeline. And at the same time, if he wasn't in that school to build that positive relationship and image of law enforcement with that child at an
Yeah.
early age, depending on what type of home they're living in, they may grow up to demonize cops. Then we got
Sure.
another problem.
Sure.
So we want to build a positive rapport. We do that with teaching 10 weeks of DARE to every 5th and 7th grader, even doing it at Coosa Christian because it's a large school in the city. It's a private school. Westbrook, fortunately, Rainbow City has an SRO there.
Mhm.
Coosa doesn't, but we go there and teach DARE to 5th and 7th. We teach it throughout all of the county schools. We have a one-day DARE camp where we go to the venue and we have the drunk binoculars and the little drunk carts you drive to teach them that, you know, the impairment that you don't need to do that. Hunter safety comes from the game warden's office and they let them shoot the bow and arrows. We have forensics come from JSU. They get to go through a mock crime scene. We feed them hamburgers and hot dogs and we have a day of fun. And then we also have the Student Leadership Academy where every junior comes once a year, stays at Gadsden State for the week, learns about responsibilities and just being a good person, gets up at 5 and PTs and goes through basically a mini police academy. And we have a big graduation. And there's so many things that we try to do because our children are our future. I'm telling
Right.
you. And we have to get out there and educate them and teach them not only, hey, this is the, you know, what's going to happen if you do bad things, but hey, look, we talk about, hey, these are the rewards of making great decisions. This is what happens when you do the right thing. And so I'm very passionate about that. I think we're
Yeah.
seeing a difference in that. Our schools, and let me say this, I see things, I try not to look at social media, but I hear, but what are we going to do to get SROs in every school? It's been done. We need more.
Yeah.
I wish we had 2 in every school, but we're still working on it. They're in every school. They're DARE certified. And Lieutenant Justin Plunkett that followed me from Glencoe to Rainbow City, that's over the SROs now, he's a DARE practitioner, and he expects to be the next state coordinator for the entire state when Kofi Anderson retires in Montgomery. So we have
That's
moved
incredible.
ages when it comes to the schools and what we've been able to do there. And I can't help but leave out, thanks to Dr. Cosby and the county commission, because they help pay for that tri-partnership. And we
Uh,
lost pistol permits. Our pistol permits paid
yeah.
for a third of that, but we've been able to still do it. We've been blessed to be able to still pay for it. And that's one thing, if anything, we'll always add to, never take away from.
Well, when I think of school resource officers, a DARE program, I think of Officer Bone
Yeah, that
from
J-Bone.
Etowah. Yeah, man, he was incredible. A lot to get to. Hey, we're not going to get to all these questions, but we'll circle through. This is a pretty good one. Hey, being sheriff, it isn't a 9 to 5 job. It's 24/7 responsibilities. So how do you personally handle the stress and the weight of your position? Maybe maybe we should ask Angie for that.
I really do think, and I can tell you this, God equips you. I could not do it. There are
Yeah.
times that I can promise you it's a very stressful job. I was chief of police for 8 years. I knew I'd never worked in the jail. And, Jerry, I can't help but remember I was on WGAD with you one day during that election. We used to meet
Yep.
every Wednesday, the other side with you and then me.
Yep. Yep.
And one of the questions was, how's he going to run the jail? He never worked in it. And I think my answer was, well, I've never flew a helicopter neither. I know that might be another question, but we'll hire a pilot. Well, you've got to get good people in the
Yeah.
right places, and it takes time to bring change.
Amen.
We have made, tremendous efforts, but it's a 24-hour, I promise you, 7-day a week. I've probably took 3 phone calls since we've sat here. A lady with somebody in jail that, they get my number, I make it public.
You do?
I answer their calls or I call them back. If I can't help them, I will tell them. But we do everything we can to return every call and do what needs to be done. And it's a very trying job. But I'll shut up. I know I go on and on. Even though I'm a Republican, there's 103,000 people in this county. Even though only 11,000 or 30% of them showed up and participated in the election, I feel the burden and weight. So should I, and try to function for all 103,000 people.
There's twice I remember in our relationship over the years. I called you one time, and you answered, and I could hear you were shook a little bit. I don't know if you remember this or not. It was you're on the side of a plane crash.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
What prepares someone who wants to be sheriff for a plane crash? And you were on site there running the ship. I mean, I heard it. You didn't say anything. I could hear it in your voice. You're like, yeah, I'm never. Okay, this is new. This is new.
Yeah. Well, that one probably was new because it was just right up the road from my house. And when it happened, I almost we ran up the side of the hill there to find it. And we've had 5 of those since I've been in office. We had 3 like in the first year. And I started to think if somebody was trying to purposely drop planes on us, but they all came back and had reasonable explanations. But it is, you never know from day to day if you're going to have a plane crash, if you're going to have a homicide, if you're going to have a missing person, if you're going to have a horrible sex abuse case, if you're going to have, and the thing is it might be in the country club, it might be in Altoona, it might be because we have county property in the country club. My point of telling you that is it affects every part of society. You never know what your neighbors do, and you really don't. And it could happen anytime to anybody because we live in real life. But
I know what my neighbor does. I live next door to Foo, the lawnmower man.
Oh, okay.
I know what Foo's doing. This is another good question. I would say this would be kind of considered behind the badge. You lead the sheriff's office. You do it with a lot of great people. You have a lot of people by your side. But what's been the hardest moment personally as sheriff? Good question.
The hardest job of being sheriff has been the jail.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the toughest part. One, we have one of the largest detention centers in this state. Our surrounding counties, you look at Marshall County, they got about 300, 350 beds. Cherokee, a couple of 100 beds.
Did we lose you? I think we lost Sheriff Horton. Let's see if we'll get him back on. Hey, thank everyone for tuning in. Maybe he's still with us. Nope, we have lost him. Let's see if he jumps back in with us. Hey, guys, thank you so much for the questions. Give me a nice opportunity to talk about. Thank you to our sponsors, Sam Boswell Honda, Tree Man Tree Service. That's Jared Bogle, 256-393-0127. Twin City Used Cars. Hey, keep your questions coming. See, I lost him. He does live way out. There he is. Let's get you back on.
Yeah.
There he is.
Yep. I don't know what happened. Just went blank.
It
That's
happens.
the
Go ahead.
hardest things, but the jail's the hardest thing as far as an independent decision. I can't really think of one, but just working at that jail has been the most toughest part. And we've made a lot of, but I enjoy it. It's a challenge.
So
Again, it's one of those things that there's always going to be problems. It's a cat and mouse game. It's you do one thing, they do another. I know when I got elected, there wasn't a window in the place.
yeah,
This is one of the only places that you could walk up and put your hand on the outside wall. All you had to do was pull up at 2:00. Somebody drop a rope made of garbage bags, and you could take a volleyball full of dope, and they'd pull it right through the window, and it would spread throughout the facility. Period.
Wow.
First thing we did, we put unbreakable glass in. They learned how to melt it. We put grates over it. They learned how to cut it. We hardened it. Then we ended up putting exterior fences that you see on the left and right side, and we just got that on and put on the front. Now, we started that project called Secure Perimeter 360 in 2022. It took 3 years.
Wow.
The reason, and it went as fast as it could go,
Mhm.
that was because of the government's process. It cost somewhere around a little over $500,000. It took engineers, it took architects, it took all the different plans, the bidding, the engine, all that stuff. It took 3 years, but it's there and it's done, and it was worth every bit of it. We went from about 10 overdoses a quarter to maybe one every 3 or 4 months. We've went to people faking overdoses because they know if they fake an overdose and go to the hospital, they get the opportunity to get bonded out, to get OR. It's a cat and mouse game. They'll try to attack correctional officers and use finances. We've had that. Unfortunately, we had one sentenced today that we had just had to charge back around Christmas. My understanding, she got 5 years. She'll do 2 years in prison, 3 years in community corrections. We had one about 2 years ago. He's in the Marshall County Jail. He's doing 5 years, 36 years old, never been in trouble a day in his life. Why people make those decisions, I don't know, but it makes it tough to try to not only make it safe for the inmates, safe for the COs, and then to take and make it to where people want to morally do the right thing. And we're getting there. Hey, we're getting there. We've got 300 something security cameras. We had none when I came there. There wasn't a door that locked into place. Of course, there was a large renovation that took place.
Sure.
When I took that job, a CO was making $10.99 an hour. Today, they start at $15.36 plus incentive. They're somewhere around 18. That's about a 45% raise.
That's great.
How did we do that? Well, we ended up, when I took office, we had ICE. They were paying $38 a day. I got them up to $52 a day. Biden pulled them out along with 16 other county jails in 4 states for ICE because he figured that if there wasn't a place to arrest them, how could you force immigration law?
Okay.
Well, now, since Trump's been in office, we're back and we're getting $62 a day. And so I went across the road and we were able to arbitrate. And they said, okay, I can't give you that extra money you're making because what if you're not sheriff and the next guy don't want to share it? Or what if ICE leaves again because the next president doesn't want them here? Right. They had good points. So we turned it into incentive pay. It gives the incentive for the COs to want to do the extra work because they're not required. I'm not required as sheriff to house federal inmates.
Right.
But I'll house them at the end of the year after cost if we can profit $1.6 million, and they'll let me give a portion of it for incentive pay to grow our recruit and our retention. And they've done that. The commission's been great with me. I can't really say, Jerry, that they've said no to anything, any of them. They've been just
those Etowah County commissioners are good dudes.
You're quiet right now. I don't know if you're talking, Jerry, but it's muted or something.
All right. Some may say that's a good show if I'm muted. Let's see. You got me now? No? Let's see.
Jerry, I can't hear you.
Looks like we're good. I don't know. I hear you just fine.
I can see you, Jerry, but I can't hear you.
What about now?
I can see you, but I can't hear you.
Okay. Hey, let me do this. I'm going to shoot you a text real quick. Tell us why you should be reelected.
So you can hear me.
Yes.
Yeah. So I've been sheriff now for about 7 years, and I can tell you it's a line upon line, building upon building, block upon block, just like the Bible talks about. You take a little bit, you learn a lot, you learn a little bit, you learn a little more. You have some failings, as Nick Saban talks about, and you learn
Sure.
from that. Those are opportunities. And I have a jail that was a direct supervision jail, the only kind of its style in the state. Nowhere to even go here locally and learn, because all the other 66 counties have linear or podular jails. The size of it, one unit, our biggest unit, Unit 10, which is on the top floor, will house about 140 people. And then when you come down, you've got 10. Then on the next floor down, you got 8 and 9. Then you've got 7, 6, 5, and 4. And then we only have one hybrid part of the jail, and that's units 1, 2, and 3. It's both podular and linear, and it's only houses all of them together about 70 people, because it's going to be all of your capital units. In other words, people that are in there for murder or very heinous crimes. It's important to know that a county jail is only built for someone to stay in about 30 days. Most people come in and out within an hour because they're just misdemeanor crimes. The felons that's there eventually either get indicted, make a deal, or get a trial and get sentenced, and the state takes custody of them after 30 days. We have people in our jail that's been there for 5 years. We have people in our jail that's been there for 10 years. The sheriff doesn't decide how long they're in there. He's just ordered and takes an oath to keep them safe as he can, and house them and to feed them. You know, when I took over, they did away with the food bill. Since I've been sheriff, thankfully, there's no sheriff in the state of Alabama since the day I took office, which was January the 14th of 2019, along with 20 other of 67 new sheriffs. At that point, you had to keep the federal money that was food in one account. You had to take the state money that was food in another
Right.
account. It gets audited by the Alabama Department of Public Accounts and Examiner's Office every 3 years, and not one red cent can be spent on anything but feeding inmates. They give us $2.25 a day to feed 3 meals to each one of them. You
It's
go to
crazy.
McDonald's and see how far that gets you. Maybe a couple of chicken nuggets. I don't know. I know Scooters is like $9 for a coffee, so I'd need 4 days of feeding from the state to get 1 cup of coffee. But that being
Sure.
said, you've got to have a good food service manager that works and gets donations. And we have a lot of different people that are good to us. Without their donations and spending every penny we've got, and we pay a nutritionist to see to it they get the amount of protein they need every day. Prior to that, things weren't that way, but now they are that way. The sheriff simply gets a salary, a base salary, and the food bill went away. I bring this up because I've seen several places where people talk about that. There's no money
Yeah.
to be made off food. Food's all, spent by the money paid to feed them, and that's it, kept separately. However, the sheriff does have discretionary accounts. That's what pays for a third of our school resource officers currently. We lost pistol permits.
Yeah.
So we were able to work with our local delegation. They gave us a civil service bill that doesn't cost the taxpayers. It's only paid by like attorneys or people that want garnishments for like credit cards that aren't paid and things of that nature. We charge them $35. That's pretty cheap. But we also got the law changed in Etowah County that we could use UPS or FedEx or the United Postal Service, because it's a lot cheaper than gasoline and it's a lot less wear and tear on those county vehicles.
Sure.
When I took office, we had over 50, let's be fair about it. It was over 40 vehicles with over 225,000 miles on it. I bought
Crazy.
40 in the last year that I know of. And now all of our vehicles pretty much are under maintenance and get the tires rotated and oil changes. And we sell them and get rid of them before they're not of any value anymore. Every 3 years, all of our school resource officers get new vehicles. And it's a lot cheaper in maintenance and things of that nature. But we did that by taking the money that we made off the commissary that the sheriff gets to put in his discretionary accounts, what few pistol permits we still sell, and this $35 paper processor fee. And we're able to provide a third of those school resource officers without it costing the taxpayers that third. We're able to provide those new vehicles to save maintenance and all of those other things. Running the office of sheriff would be very similar to being a CEO of a large company.
Mhm.
You've got 800 something people spending the night every day. You're going to serve about 2,400 meals. You're going to cover several thousand miles. You've got people with guns and badges on that are out enforcing the law, and you need to make sure that they're level headed and that they're able to carry out those orders and do those things lawfully and safely. You've got liability everywhere. And let me say this. If there's a felony inmate in a hospital, you must have a certified police officer guarding him. And if he's a
Right.
federal inmate, you must have two of them.
Oh.
Because otherwise you don't get reimbursed and you don't get your day rate. And that would be very important to be able to finance a shift of officers. And we spend a lot of times in
Sure.
the hospitals. We were able to get our federal reimbursement up to $39 an hour. That's more than our overtime rate. So the county is well compensated and reimbursed for every officer that sits at that hospital, but certainly
Okay.
they have to be certified. Off-duty jobs, they've always been available. We make people carry their own liability insurance. Again, there's a lot of liability to do in certain security jobs. There's
Sure.
enough liability already when you're out here just enforcing the law. But we don't want to limit people to those positions, so we do take and make sure that those things are in place. So you're dealing with people that you're managing that are not only carrying out very important duties, but then having to supplement their income, even though the sheriff doesn't decide what deputies make. The county commission
Right.
does, and the state
Right.
legislature does. I think, a very good job with a lot of great deputies helping me to lobby to get to where we are. And
Sure.
I'm telling you, I don't really worry about it because I know that the Lord will see me through. And when I say that, this place will be better than I left it. But I can tell you this, it's invested a lot in me at this point, and I don't want
Yeah.
to leave it until I give its return. And that's by making that jail as good as it can be. It will never be perfect. And
Sure.
making drugs as minimal as they can be, and making our county as safe as it can be. And whenever I get to the place that I'm not able to do that, Jerry, I won't run. And that won't be before I'm able to retire, because I know God wants me to be able to take care of my family forever. And I've got
Yeah.
5 grandchildren. And I will say this to everyone. Always make time to spend time with your family. It doesn't matter how important your job is.
Yeah.
If it's not but a date night a week, if it's not but something, but your family's all you got. And all my years of dealing with death, and I've seen a lot of them, from the funeral business to law enforcement, I haven't seen anybody carry anything to the cemetery except for
Wow.
their family.
Yeah.
And when they left, there wasn't anything left. So, I knew a
Just-
lady one time that promised her husband, Jerry, she'd put 100,000 in the casket because he had saved up all this cash. And right before the funeral home closed the curtain, she stepped out back and thought about it real hard. She decided to write him a check. She put it in his front pocket, said if he cashed it, he could have it.
That's so
Anyway, last
fun.
funeral
What's
home,
it over?
Joe, I'll shut up.
No, hey, two more quick
And I
questions.
can't
We'll
hear
get you
you,
out
and
of
it
here.
feels weird just talking to the air, Jerry, but I'm going to
Yeah.
shut up.
You still don't hear me? You don't hear me? Okay. Anyway, I just want to say thank you so much for taking time to be with us, and we'll have you on again. Not sure what the issue is.
Thank you, and God bless. Thank y'all. Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you, Sheriff Jonathon Horton.